All right, we're going to go ahead and look at the derivative of a constant function. So a constant functions would be just the derivative of any number. So when I graph constant functions, so if I said c was 5, it would look like y equals 5. Okay, and what we need to remember is that your derivative, whenever you guys find that, your derivative is the slope of the tangent line. Slope of the tangent line. Okay, and whenever we're talking about the derivative of a constant, I'm asking you, well, what is the slope of this constant line? It is 0. Okay, some notation to take into account, you might see dy dx. Okay, you could also see d dx. This is saying take your derivative of your function y, okay, with respect to x. Okay, so it's dy dx. This one is saying your derivative of your function f, okay, because sometimes we use function notation, f of x instead of dx. You can also, sometimes you see it says take the derivative of dx with respect to x. Okay, so there's some notation for you there. Whenever you're taking the derivative of a constant, it's going to be 0. Here is a little example y. So if I have d dx of -3. Okay, if I use my logic from observing my derivatives from our introduction, this is really x to the 0 power. Okay, if I bring my 0 down, I would have -3 times 0 x to the, and it wouldn't matter what power it is because 0 times all this will just give me out 0. Okay, so that's one way you could think through it. The other thing is if I were to graph y equals -3, I would have a line here. And then I would just say to you guys, well, what is the slope of this line? The slope is 0, so that means the derivative is also 0. Okay, so the derivative of any constant function is 0. Okay, it's a good thing to keep in mind. So here's some examples. It says find f prime of x. You might also sometimes see you guys, it'll say find d dx. That's saying find the derivative. You could also see it could say dy dx. Okay, those are some notations for finding the derivative. So 9's a constant, so the derivative of that constant is 0. Okay, and then this is also notation f prime of x for derivative. We have f of x equals -4. It's a constant, there's no x by it. Okay, that's the other reason I know something's a constant, there is no x associated with it. So f prime of x for this one would equal 0. Now c is ln of 8. I don't have my calculator pulled up, but I have one next to me. So if I were to type in ln of 8 on my calculator, okay, I notice there's no x with it, so it kind of should be a red flag. But ln of 8 is an irrational number, and so it's f of x equals 2.07944, and it goes on forever. So it's a number, and the derivative of any number or constant for this one would be 0. Okay, so sometimes ln of 8, sometimes you try and trick you, so you just have to be careful with things like that. Constants are any number that do not have an x with it. Okay, constant. Any form of a number without an x. Or any variable, could be t. Okay, so without a t or anything, that's your constant. And the derivative of those are 0.